so I know where that is, and it's farther than Franklin. Since January, I've traveled this district, and I've spoken to Republicans and Democrats alike, because that is not important to me. What is important to me is people. The number one issue that I hear over and over is the need for jobs and hope for the future. Yesterday, the president launched his most recent publicity campaign, tax reform. There are no details except the goal of slashing corporate tax rates from 35% to 15%. Months of private negotiations between Trump staff and congressional representatives have resulted in zero legislation. Economists agree that there is scant evidence that cutting the tax rate stimulates more investments, boosts wages, and creates jobs. There's widespread recognition that those tax cuts boost corporate profits and benefit the wealthiest Americans. Your constituents are hurting right now, and action is needed. Here's my question. When are you going to stand up for the interests of the 19th District, calling to task the hurtful soundbites that are dividing our country? What specifically do you propose, with substance please, that would serve the 19th Congressional District most successfully in terms of tax reform?
So, there's a reason why tax reform hasn't been accomplished since 1986. It's really difficult. And every single provision in the tax code has defenders. Every single provision in the tax code will be very strongly fought for by those that benefit from it. And so what we've got to do is, the president's proposal, you're right, he hasn't introduced legislation, and that's a problem. It is going to come out of the Congress. But the reduction of the corporate tax rate to 15%, I can tell you, is not, in my view, feasible. If we could get it in the mid-20s range, it would be much more likely to happen. But I do think it's important. Another thing that I think is important, and you asked specifically about this district, I'm going to keep fighting to end the New York Medicaid mandate on the local property taxpayers. And here's why. If you add up what the taxpayers, the property taxpayers, pay in the 57 counties outside of New York City, if you add that up, it's about $2.3 billion. That amount is more than the local taxpayers pay for Medicaid costs in the 49 other states combined. This was the single worst thing that Nelson Rockefeller did as governor, imposing this burden on local homeowners, local business property taxpayers. It is driving jobs and businesses out of our state. And I can tell you, again, as I said before, the two things that people say the most about our state is that their kids and grandchildren can't find jobs here, and their property taxes are too high, and when they retire, they're getting the heck out of here. This is something, this Medicaid mandate, many people have just become inured to it. And some of the opponents that the governor rousted about said, oh, well, this will mean you're going to cut Medicaid services for people. Well, here's what the General Accounting Office, the Comptroller General of the United States, an Obama appointee, who, by the way, is a really good guy. We had him in the Budget Committee. And he told us 15% of Medicaid payments are inappropriate, either fraudulent or mistakenly made. 15%. In New York State, that's $9 billion. $9 billion. My proposal would end the $2.3 billion that is imposed on the county property taxes. That's $40 million that comes out of the property taxpayers in Ulster County. It's almost half of what the county legislature and the county executive have to raise in real estate taxes from people who live in Ulster County. In Otsego County, Cooperstown, where you grew up, 91% of the tax burden goes to pay for mandated Medicaid costs. It's an outrage, and it does not make any sense that we put this burden on homeowners. This is what's killing New York. It's what's killing upstate New York. We are losing population. Every single county in this district has lost population in the last 5 years, the last 10 years, the last 20 years. We are being depopulated in upstate New York because the burden on businesses, the burden on homeowners, the burden on jobs is too much. People are fleeing voting with their feet. What more evidence do we need that we've got to fix this? So those are the things that I stand for. Those are the things that I believe. And you know, when I ran, it's a quaint topic. I read the Medicaid law. And the Medicaid law says the state can impose this burden on localities, but only Rockefeller, and for the last 51 years, only Albany has done it the way Albany did it. Think of it, folks. We pay more in local property taxes to support state Medicaid costs than the 49 other states combined local taxpayers. It's crazy, it's obscene, and I'm going to keep fighting to change it.
With all due respect, Congressman Faso, you served in the state assembly. So legislating state issues from Washington and having it only be focused on New York is not your job.
Exactly. Oh, I would say it is my job. In fact, I'm working on other things right now. We have a thing called the scaffold law in New York State. This raises the costs of every single family home in New York State by approximately $10,000. It means it's strict liability if there's an injury on a construction site, if there's a gravity-related thing. You hear the trial lawyers on TV saying, construction accident? Call us. Because you know why? They don't have to prove a thing in their case. Someone could go up on a ladder drunk, and the owner of the property and the contractor are strictly liable in tort. We are the only state in the country to do it. So you know what I'm proposing in September? I'm proposing, and this is news. I haven't announced this yet. I'm proposing that any federal dollars, if they're federal dollars that are used for transportation, for bridges, for community development, for FEMA projects, for housing, affordable housing projects, are increased by 7 to 10% more in our state because of this crazy law that no other state in the nation has. So rather than waste federal taxpayer resources and waste resources and continue to drive people out of our state, making it more unaffordable, I'm going to propose that if we have a situation where you're using federal dollars in our state for construction, you have comparable negligence rather than strict liability. That will save everyone money. And that's what I'm about. That's why we've got to change what's happening. People are voting with their feet. They're getting the heck out of here. That's what's happening. Why is our district 11 counties from Vermont to Pennsylvania? Because 30 years ago, this district, 30, no, this district, no, you are utterly uninformed in that regard. This is not, no, these district lines were done, no. These district lines were done by a federal magistrate judge. There was no politics involved in that whatsoever. But 30 years ago, this district, the size of this district in upstate New York, would have 2 members of Congress. We are literally depopulating ourselves because of these crazy policies, and that is what I'm going to try to change. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming out. The congressman will meet with the press after the meeting. Thank you for coming out.
Again, thank you for everybody. We really wanted to make sure you had an opportunity to ask questions tonight. I hope that you feel that you had that opportunity.